The nurse asked me, "Is this your first miscarriage?" And until that moment, I hadn't even thought of that word.
We were expecting twins. It was awesome. It felt like kind of like a miracle because twins are already really hard to get. And
The ultrasound technician was able to show me a baby on the screen and said, "Here's your baby." And then she moved the wand a little bit and said, "And there's the other one." And I was like, "Excuse me?" We went out for dinner one night. We came up with names for our babies. So for a couple of weeks, we figured out what was life gonna look like with 3 children under the age of 2. We lost the babies very quickly. The products of conception, as they called it. And after they said that a few times, I had to beg them to please just say the babies. But they did their best. They were all very kind.
you know, her eyes rolled to the back of her head, and she shook, went ghastly pale, and I was screaming for help. It was obvious in their faces that right now they were moving from saving the babies, which could not be done, to saving her life. It doesn't feel like an apt comparison, but it sure seemed like it, even to this day, of shell shock. Like we had just been to war almost. Just the next several days, I disconnected from myself. I still had a brand new job coming up, and I couldn't just not go to it because I still had a family to feed. I still had a son. My wife was still here. I had them to think about. So I was never able to properly process it. So I just moved through the emotions that I had to move through. Well, Grace luckily got a lot of support from our parents. For me, it was definitely quite a bit different because I didn't physically go through it. At the end, I was very glad I had that conversation with her because she did understand that it was different and still very difficult for a father, because they're still my children. I'm still their father.
She asked if we were able to get the girls' remains, and I said I actually didn't know. We hadn't been thinking about it at the time. And at that moment, she went out of the room, and when she came back, she said she had just called and she got them to set them aside for us so we could look at burial options. The option that we chose to go with was through the hospital burial program.
Twice a year we go see the girls on the day they were supposed to be born and the day they died. And those days it's hard. I don't go there without crying.
Their names are out there in the world, which felt important. I had the idea I should start a business with their names, and not even to make money, but to create a legacy for them where they didn't have the opportunity to do that themselves. And every time I hand out a business card or talk about my business or anything like that, I am telling someone that my daughters existed. So after losing the girls, we realized we were ready to have another baby. I'd lay awake worrying that I was going to start bleeding again. I only pushed for 2 minutes and there she was. And like that, the moment she came out, all that weight was off my shoulders. She was here, and she was perfect. And she does not replace her sisters, she supplements them.
She's Jenna. She is who she is, but also her understanding that she has 2 sisters.
One thing that's always been very meaningful to me is that both my mom and Matt's parents consider the girls to be their grandchildren. If you ask my mom, she will tell you she has 7 grandchildren, not 5. We now know that our family is complete. There will always be 2 pieces missing. Nobody's tried to negate or dismiss or explain away our loss. They don't understand it, but they respect it. Friends afterwards who told me, yeah, I had a loss too. Like, it's not something anybody ever talks about. It makes you feel alone and unprepared to not know that this is a possibility. And maybe if it were something that we talked about all the time, I think that would go a long way toward when somebody does go through it, they'll know on the other side of it, there are people who understand them and are there to support them with it. And they'll know that in that moment that they're not alone.